Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Tier List Tuesday, where every week I come through with an amazing guest and we pick some topic apart and decide which parts of it are great, which parts of it belong in the bin. This week is no different. This is probably one of my favorite topics we've done yet because it's a more niche topic, but if you have the right person for the job, this is going to be an incredible one. And of course, I believe I've achieved both those things. So we're talking crockpot recipes today, and we've got the one person that you could get for this. And that's, of course, Tommy, a.k.a. Two-Time Tommy, a.k.a. Touchdown Tommy. Tommy, how's it going?
It's good. I'm, enjoying my, what day is it? Tuesday. Enjoying my my Tier List Tuesday so far with a nice cup of coffee in the morning.
Big same. Oh, you can't see it because of the green screen? Right here.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. Just real spoiler alert. I've got a crockpot meal being made right behind this computer, ready to go for dinner. So we're on.
Don't put your thumb on the scale. Don't.
No, that's not even. It's a not on the list item to just give you a spot. I didn't put it on the list, but I'm very excited about this, gang. So here's what's going to happen. Right, every week we pick a topic apart. Like I said, we go through the things. But you have to go through the tier first. So let me just walk you through, Tommy, the categories for today. If you have anything you want to workshop, any of the names or anything of the tiers, just let me know. So the one that cannot be removed is Bin'em. That's the bottom tier. That's the worst of the worst. You want to throw it in the bin. It's that horrible. That's the Bin'em category. The next one, fourth tier, is Shame Meal. You're kind of ashamed to eat this, but you're like, it's not like holding you down. It's not what you want, Third tier is your run-of-the-mill average tiers. It's food. It's fine. I'll have it. Whatever. And then the second tier is I got food at home, which is kind of the opposite of the whole, like, can we get McDonald's? No, we have McDonald's at home. This is where you're like, no, you know what? I have food at home. That's how good the food is. That I've got food at home. I don't need to eat out today.
Yeah, someone's like, hey, you want to go grab dinner? You're like, no, I'm good. Like, I have a treat me meal at home. I'm excited to sit down with my crockpot meal.
Exactly. And then the last one for me is the Crockpot of Gold, which I feel like that's just the way that's going to be. It's so good. It's gold tier. It's top tier. It's number one. Yeah,
it's like when you take a bite, it melts in the mouth. Like, this is, when you have this before you even taste it.
Exactly.
It's going to be good.
Exactly.
I like it. Yeah, I like the list. The shame meal is I think that's my favorite category. It's like I just picture you like hiding underneath your bed and you're like eating it. And no one knows. Nobody knows you're eating that meal.
Yeah. I've definitely had my fair share of shame meals. But those would end up being like a 3 a.m, like big ass takeaway that I'm just eating solo. Like, yeah, like on a Saturday night, no. Alone, no. Those are definitely shame meals.
Yeah, like my cat pasta looks me in the eyes, and even she's ashamed of me. Like, it's like that's how you know you've reached that level.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I want to ask you. So I found out about your crockpot love, not even via DMs. We didn't talk about this. It was through the public timeline. So this reputation precedes you now. You're like the crockpot person to me. How did this come about?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always kind of had a passion for crockpots in the way that, like, as a kid, like my mom was a big fan of the crockpot because it's easy. You just put it in there and you wait. And like I had a big family, so it was very easy to have meals ready for later. But really, my passion grew into like a brand when sequester happened, and like people, so for those, like, you can't tell now because I recently shaved, but I have a mustache. That's usually my go-to look, is just a mustache.
Yes, that's what I remember. The first debut of Tommy was Mustache Tommy.
Yeah, well, yeah. I shaved it I was in a sequester game recently. I'm in the sequester world, and I was in one, and I made it in jury, but like close to the beginning of jury. So I was like, let me do a funny bit and let me shave my mustache. Mid-game, I ran to the bathroom, shaved it off, and I came back as Thomas. So it's like, I think I'm in the middle ground now.
Now I'm understanding the chat being like, is this Tommy or Thomas? What's going on?
Yeah.
Now it makes sense.
Like, okay. Thomas likes panini makers. Tommy likes crockpots.
Yo, paninis are amazing sandwiches. Can we just say that right out the gate? Okay.
I think most sandwiches, I don't want to say all, but most sandwiches are heightened when put into a panini maker.
If you panini a thing, it usually becomes way better. It's a panini nice, if you will. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, so then I got into the crock pot was part of that whole persona of like, people say I look like Milo from This Is Us. And without spoiling anything, I was like, let me just put like a little Easter egg for people in the background.
Okay.
But like now my crock pot is in the background. And people became kind of obsessed with it. Like the whole topic was like, is he making soup? Does he like the smell of soup? Does he have to go to bed to the smell of soup? Like what? Why does he have this in his room?
It's like a Michael Scott with the George Foreman. He's just got a crock pot in the background making potatoes or some shit.
Yeah. So that's like, I am big on bits. So I was like, you know what? Like, this is my thing now. I'm just going to make people obsessed with this crock pot.
And again, it's only appropriate that you come through, make a debut on the stream as the crockpot connoisseur. So, the way this works, Tommy, is you gave me the list. So, fun fact, I didn't add anything to this list today. I left it all to the connoisseur himself. So, you gave me the list. So, you have it in our chat. You nominate the first item. We'll talk through it. We'll decide where it goes. We'll each have our opinions, of course. And then I'll nominate the next one back and forth until we're done the whole list today. Okay.
I think I'm going to start off with an appetizer, you know? Like
okay.
That's more of, you know, like you're hanging out with friends, you're going to put this out, and it's Spinach and Artichoke Dip.
Okay, I like where we're going with this to start. I like the debut. Okay, so we got Spinach and Artichoke Dip. Yes, some of the pictures have names on them just because it can get a little confusing, but that's what we're doing here today. So starting off with Spinach Artichoke Dip, tell me why this was the first one you want to talk about.
Yeah, for me, I think it's like, I didn't want to go too far into the list, but I didn't want to start out with a clunker, right? And to me, Spinach and Artichoke Dip is that thing that if it's at a party, you're probably going to try it, right? Like if it's there, you're not going to be like, I'm passing on that. But it is an interesting dish because it's like, I know there's some people that like their Spinach and Artichoke Dip cold. There's some people that like it hot. So it is kind of like a, you know, with this version, we are talking about the hot spinach and artichoke.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you a cold dip guy? Cold spinach dip guy? Yeah, no, same. Big same. Okay.
Yeah. But it became a big deal. I think last Super Bowl, it was brought to my attention. That's a thing. And it was a big, there was two sides. There was, are you cold or are you hot? And which one are we going to do?
Nah, I mean, like Will Smith would say, let me bring Will Smith involved, get him involved here. As Will Smith would say, or should say,
oh, that's hot. That's hot.
It's got to be hot. Okay, cool. So where does this rank for you?
So right now where I'm putting it, it's like, again, like I said, it's definitely something that like, if it's there, I'm going to eat it. But I don't know if I'm like searching for it, you know?
Okay.
Like it's not something that I feel like I would make on my own, but it feels like something that I would eat if it is at a party. So I would probably put it at its food.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I have a higher opinion of this. So for me, when I first got put onto the artichoke dip, spinach dip, artichoke spinach dip, it's incredible. Incredible. You know, you dip a little bit of bread into that, boom, amazing. You dip like chips, anything, it's incredible. And I'm seeing a lot of people, you know, advocating for the cold. You got to understand, with this kind of dip, when it's hot, it's an appetizer. When it's cold, it's just a side for chips or something. Like, it only becomes something closer to a meal or like a plated thing when it's hot. So, for that reason, and for many more personal opinions for me, I think this is at least in I got food at home.
Okay.
And I do see, depending on where we end up with this list, this is something that could end up being a top contender for me. But then ultimately, we're looking at these also from the guise of like in a crock pot. Making this in a crock pot, I love that. The fact that you can make something that you can have ready for a game night with friends, they're coming over to watch a thing, you know, you have a date coming over, you want to be like, look at me, I'm putting through appetizer restaurant style. This is a winner for me. So,
you light those candles, you got the little crock pot cooking. And
exactly.
The crock pot, it's so silent, right? It can cook the whole time and it's not distracting from if you watch a movie or something.
Exactly.
That's the big thing about today is I just want to show how versatile this crock pot is, you know?
No, and that's the thing. This list is going to prove that. To anyone that's like new to a crock pot or has really used the crock pot for one or two things, yeah.
I agree with you. You convinced me because I think, and I'll get into, I'll do the next one next because it's like, I think I'm being, there's two dips. Well, there's a couple dips, but there's one dip that I have personal connections to that I feel like I want to put higher than the spinach and
Okay.
artichoke
No, I'm
dip.
okay with leaving it in the second tier for now then, for sure. If you're open to that.
I'm cool with leaving it at I got food at home, but
Okay.
it's on that edge of like for me it's on the edge of the two, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Okay. So the next one on the list that I want to talk about. Let me quickly pull them up here. Give it a quick look. Okay, I want to talk about this one because I'm actually very intrigued on your opinions. I want to go with the chicken noodle soup, crockpot style. So, chicken noodle soup, the way it works with the crockpot, you just like most crockpot recipes, you throw everything in there, kind of a set it and forget it. However, you add the noodles in a little bit later because the noodles don't need to be there from jump. They will turn to mush. Now, I've made this quite a few times, Tommy. Especially this year, I've made it twice. Once when I was sick at the start of the year in January, made myself a whole thing of soup. And then once while I had moved here, made some for me and Liana because we had some carrots that were going to start going bad. I was like, let's preserve these. Let's make soup out of them. It was fine. I think ultimately for me, I found that it didn't hit quite the same as it would have stovetop. Like
soup, you don't think the crock pot changes the chicken noodle soup enough?
I think the everything else about it was fine. I think it was mostly the noodles for me did not work within the crock pot. Now it could have been maybe I left it in for too long perhaps, but both times I was a little bit like not too keen on it because I do think a lot like you can make soup in a crock pot and it's phenomenal. Like better than stovetop, I would even argue. But maybe not for chicken noodle. But what do you think about this?
I think the thing about chicken noodle, and there's a couple like these, right? It's like there is variety in the chicken noodle. It's like what kind of noodle are you using? I think for a crock pot, you need a thick noodle. Like you need a thick noodle in there, like an egg
egg noodle.
What do they call it?
Yeah,
noodle maybe. And then the chicken is also important too. Are you having a more thick cut chicken, or are you doing more of the shredded chicken with it? But I do see your point. I think for me, I don't know if it's better or worse, but you can get the same results from a stovetop and it's quicker. I don't think you benefit from it going longer in a crock pot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like you said, you have to check on the noodles. So then like the whole benefit of being able to like sit it and forget it, you're not getting that benefit.
Right. Yeah. And that's the big thing. Cause like, there's recipes where, they give you the leeway of once it's done, if you open it and it's like, the sauce isn't thick enough, get you some cornstarch, throw it in, walk away again. That is I'm fine with, but the fact that then I have to keep an eye on the noodles, it's like, well, that was the whole point of you do all of it. I walk away and do my own thing. So that is a little bit of a no for me.
Yeah, it's like you hire a maid, but then you're supposed to come in and like take out the trash after the maid's fixed everything.
Like the TV, the sitcom trope of, oh, I have to clean before the maid shows up so the maid doesn't know how dirty I am. It's like, well, then what's the point? Like, if you're going to clean, you might as well clean the whole thing. So, yeah. I think for me, this ends up being in the it's food borderline shame meal, but I think it's food is probably where it's at because if I'm really needing soup and I've got everything to make this, I'm not mad at having this,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it is definitely in that middle area where it's like, I'll have it, I guess.
Yeah, it's there. Cool, I'll have it. Yeah.
But if someone like pitches if someone's like, hey, let's go to this fancy restaurant, I'd probably be like, cool, soup can wait tomorrow. Like,
I will actively postpone having this soup if other stuff comes along that's even a wee bit better. Be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So where do you want to go next?
So we got soup, we got our soup, we got a little bit of an appetizer. Let's jump around to maybe more of a side thing because I really want to keep a lot of our big hitters around for a little bit more. Maybe we can throw one of those in later. But okay. Scalloped potatoes, because to me that's a very interesting one for a crock pot because I've heard you can do scalloped potato casserole, like that's the thing you put it in the oven. This is one where I have not tried it in a crock pot, but I saw enough recipes where I was intrigued to try it in a crock pot.
Mm-hmm. So I've personally not made scalloped potatoes in a crock pot. I have had it at a buffet before. And I know it was crock pot because the crock pot was there. It was like, because there's like usually at buffets, there's like the main table where like it's all like let's say it's all the noodles or the grains, like the rice plates and stuff. And then there's another station with all the meats. This was like on a side station where they had two crock pots going. One had scalloped potatoes. The other one had like beef, ground beef, like taco kind of thing going on. Like a make it your own station. I've had it. It wasn't phenomenal. It was one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm really, I'm down with potatoes. I'll have it, but it would have not been my first choice on my plate. It would have not been. It was one of those things where it's like, oh, I just walked by it and might as well get some. I do think that, for me, potatoes will end up being one of those things where I would rather have it done in the oven potentially or stovetop potentially. So. Yeah, it's because also I don't know, because like the thing is with potatoes, and I don't know if we're gonna be on the same page here, but I feel like potatoes once they're cool, I'm out for the most part. The benefit of the crock pot is you can keep it on keep warm, and it's just gonna keep it warm. That's amazing, but ultimately, it's not my favorite potato consumption.
I wonder if it dries out, because that's my thing with the oven. Sometimes it gets too crispy on the top, and I think sometimes with potatoes. There's a fine line you walk with potatoes.
Yes, big time.
And I wonder if you don't run into the crispy issue with the crock pot, but you wander into the dry issue if you leave it on warm for a while. Like let's say you're leaving it there, and it's like that's the one downside of crock pots is sometimes it does the longer you keep it there, the longer it ruins the food, but it is not at its peak foodness. Right.
Yeah. At some point the keep warm is still technically cooking it, whether you like it or not. And I feel like with potatoes you could have that problem. I've certainly had that problem with other things that I've tried to keep warm for a bit, and that's not turned out great. Which takes me to my next thing. In about an hour, if we're still here, you're gonna have to filibuster for like 2 minutes while I turn off my crock pot because I'm not about to have my chicken go dry.
You cannot. I can't watch. I don't think I could be here for your chicken to go dry in a crock pot. Like it feels like a disservice to me. But you let that happen.
Mandy in the chat says this is the typical my aunt brings this to family party still in the crock pot food, and I could very much see this be the case.
So like graduation party, like it's like it sits there at a graduation party.
Yeah, while I was looking for a photo for my background, I saw the crock pots that were the lid latches on and you can just carry it out like box style. It's like that would help if most crock pots had that. Big time.
Yeah, but like I just wish people would like use that more often. Like you're going to the airport and someone's just like carrying their crock pot.
Yeah, it's like, all right, so do you have any luggage? Yeah, I'm checking this luggage in, and then I have my sorry, sir, what's that? It's my lasagna to go. Yeah, I don't think it's fine. It's like it's in a container, it's sealed. You can't do anything about this.
I just really want the lasagna on the plane.
Oh yeah, no. Here's the thing: there's some questionable things that people bring on planes to eat. And like a tuna sandwich is one of them. I feel like any fish is a problem for me. I respect you if you bring lasagna because it takes guts to like sit there with a whole ass lasagna for a flight. That would be incredible.
I like. See, I'm less about what kind of sandwich. I like the people where it's like they're so secure about their sandwich, but the sandwich is wrapped in like 10 things of like a plastic wrap, and it's like unwrapping the Holy Grail. They're like, all right, here we go. This sandwich is coming here. Let me unwrap this whole thing for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I can't. I can't do that. For me, even like if I've ever taken a long bus or anything, and I'm back at home. Like back in Dubai, my mom would be like, do you want something for the road? I'm like, no, because I can't. I'm so insecure. I can't have people be throwing eyes at me. I'm just like, slowly, I can't do that. But back to the scallop potatoes in hand. Where do you want to go with this? Where do you see this going?
I'm in between Benham and Shane Mill. I'm leaning towards Benham, but
to be honest, yeah, I have a feeling, Tommy, that we're not going to have a lot of Benham opportunities here.
Yes.
I want one in the Benham, and I think this is the best option. Because like I said, the fact of the matter is, I've had these at a buffet before, and they were not great, and I'm big on buffet food, so it was disrespectful. And even, again, this is never going to be my go-to choice for potato anyway, like crock pot or not. So I think Benham is where it belongs.
Yeah, and I actually like the ones we picked so far, because it's giving me a good sense of what our range is, where we're at with it.
Yeah, no, it's good to see where the bottom of this thing is, and it's good to see that the top is yet to be determined potentially. So, yeah, I'm all about this. I'm all about this. And then, what I'm also all about, since we've already kind of talked about it in some way, shape, or form, Also, I see Katie just threw a follow. Hey, Katie. We've got lasagna. I want to talk about lasagna because we just talked about it. So here's the thing. I love lasagna. Liana hates lasagna. Doesn't get it. Doesn't get it. And like, I was like, hey, I can change your mind. Trust me. I made her lasagna, and like, she's big on, it has to have hella veggies. So I hella veggied it. Still didn't like it. I love lasagna. So I'm not even gonna pretend that this isn't one I really like. Crock Pot Lasagna, not too shabby. Does the thing. Is good. The biggest worry again becomes the what's it called? What do we call it? The lasagna sheets. There we go. They can get mushy, but also there's so much going on with the lasagna that I don't think I'm gonna notice it on a slice. You know, I've eaten it, had no problem with it. It's fine. It's good. So
see, I actually want my lasagna. I don't want to say I want my lasagna sheets mushy, but I don't like the oven. Sometimes you know how it gets like super like crisp, where it's like it's almost like you're eating like it almost turns back to the pasta before it cooks, whereas like, you're just eating almost like sheer pasta, like dry pasta.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm with you. The only part of the lasagna that I need to be crispy is the cheese on the top.
Yes.
So that initial, and that doesn't even have to be super crispy. So for me, again, it's like would I prefer an oven or would I prefer a crock pot to do this? I feel like I would prefer the oven. So this might be, I don't know, because again, I'm trying to like separate my love for lasagna and my love for crock pot dishes and where the two meet. So. Yeah,
it's like we have to remember that we can still like as an Italian boy myself, I love a good pasta dish. I love a good lasagna. You know, my cat is named after pasta, so it's like I feel ownership to lasagna. But we have to remember this is crockpot lasagna. It's funny because the airport thing almost makes me want to root for it more, just because I just imagine someone going to the airport with their crockpot lasagna for the bit. I almost want to put it up more, but I agree with you. It's like I feel like I would just it's like. I haven't seen much crockpot lasagna. It's like it's always oven casserole dish. It was the same way with the scallop potatoes. It's more in that like you're most likely going to put it in the oven. Yeah,
and like Katie brings up in the chat, Instant Pot lasagna is a good middle. I feel like Instant Pot lasagna would hit heavy, and I would love that. So I feel like this for me is either going to end up being like bottom of I got food at home, because again, even if I make it in the crock pot, I will always be like, I'm good. I've got lasagna at home. I'm not mad at it. So I feel like it's either bottom of I got food at home, or it's top of it's food. And that would I would have a hard time putting it in the middle.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards it's food. Because like I almost like, again, it's like, I almost like I want to say it's like something where it's like I want to tell a lot of people I'm eating crockpot lasagna. Like it's not shame meal. I'm not hiding under my bed with my lasagna.
Right, but it's not something you want to advertise.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Again, it's one of those. If someone was like, "Hey, we're going to go to this amazing pasta restaurant," even though I have lasagna, I might even choose that pasta restaurant over the lasagna because. But so I would say definitely like bottom of the ants food is where I'm at.
Bottom? Oh shit. Okay.
Where would you put it?
I don't know. I'm like between the chicken noodle and this. I mean, like I would go for this over the chicken noodle.
Chicken noodle. Yeah. Okay. I put it above chicken.
Okay. Noodle. Cool. Also, number one person roasted by Puya's in the chat. Hello, Jacob. I see your punk ass coming through the chat again. Listen to Jacob on the latest Love Island podcast. He was there. Shout out to him for that. I'm not roasting you for that. Don't worry. Although the fact that you like Connor is outrageous, but that's a conversation for another day. We're tier listing right now. I said hello to Katie, hello to Mandy, hello to Dippin' Dots, hello to Kelly. I see all of you in the chat. We're reading it as we go along. Here's the thing. So lasagna is now an Ehed's food. It goes back to you. Where do you want to go next?
So we've done scallop, we've done lasagna. I gotta make sure I'm taking notes of these. I want to go to pulled pork.
Pulled pork. Let's go. Okay. So do share the pulled pork opinions here.
Yeah, so there's a couple dishes that I think of when I think of crock pots, and I think pulled pork is one of those. When you think of like the Mount Rushmore of crock pot dishes, I do think that pulled pork is up there. And I think for me, it's like it depends on the pulled pork, but most of the time, I think what I'm thinking of is like the barbecue pulled pork, and like I'm more of the fan of you make the pulled pork first, you put the barbecue on afterwards. You don't put the barbecue into the crock pot. But I think I've never had a bad pulled pork in my opinion.
Same. There's not been one time where I've been like, oh, this is a bad pulled pork experience ever, crockpot or otherwise. And it's also, I agree, Mount Rushmore for me, crockpot wise, very easy to make, delicious. I also prefer the sauce after, because I think I know the sauce will keep. I know that it's not gonna like start kind of vanishing, you know. So I agree with you there too. This to me is a top tier choice because it's convenient, it's easy to make, it's delicious, and it's a step above a regular sandwich if you sandwich it. So if you're having pulled pork, no one's gonna be like, whoa, crockpot pulled pork. No one's gonna even bat an eye at the word crockpot there because it's obviously top tier all the time. I feel like, to me, I don't know about you, but I would like to nominate this for the Crockpot of Gold right out the gate.
That's what I'm thinking too, because it's like the fact that there's some things where I'm like, oh, it needs like, oh, this sandwich needs sauce, or this sandwich needs pulled pork doesn't. You can add pickles to it. You can add coleslaw to it. It doesn't need it though. You don't even need it. I mean, it's obviously good in a bun. You should do like a pulled pork sandwich, but I'll eat pulled pork just by its own. Like I'll just have like a little piece, like almost like a side of pulled pork with no bun. So I'm with you. I think this is Crockpot of Gold here.
I 100%. Tic Tac says when you're a vegetarian. I'm sorry, Tic Tac. I don't know what the pulled pork equivalent is for someone who's vegetarian.
I think it's jackfruit.
Jackfruit? Okay. So maybe
like you pull that.
Do you think that would crockpot well?
I think I've had jackfruit before, and it's definitely like up there for vegetarian food and vegan food. So I would probably put it in the like jackfruit would probably go in the either in the ants food or I got food at home. It could be in that tier of it.
I see. Okay. So I'm seeing jackfruit as it's a hassle.
Yeah, that's the only issue with jackfruit.
Okay, so the next one here from me. Let's go with I'm like looking at these, I'm like, what do I not want to end? Like, I don't want to like repeat the same opinions and be like, this is also a top tier. And we're starting to like, for me, a lot of these might hit that way, but let's go with the bolognese. So you put this on the list. Specification, we're talking the sauce, right? Or we're talking like the whole situation, or just the sauce to add to like your pastas.
Originally it was going to be because again I wanted like a vegetarian option. We can switch it to as I put lentil bolognese, but I wanted to have it be more general bolognese. But yeah, it's essentially just that like bolognese to me. And let me check myself just to make sure it's like a meat sauce essentially.
I believe so,
and it can be a lentil sauce if you can use vegetables in it. But to me, I like weirdly enough. I am a big bolognese fan. I would almost like a meat sauce over big meatballs and something because I like that there's just like all like the tech. Like every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, there's a little meaty thing. There's a
right. It's like a hidden treasure.
Yeah. So I am a big bolognese, but I guess the question is, and like what we've been talking about a lot of these, does it need to be does it crock pot? Like bolognese is great. I think we can both agree with that. Does it need to be in a crock pot form?
So for me, the lesson I learned the hard way is my initial introduction to crockpots was not using a recipe. I pretty much decided for myself what's going to go in. And it was like, okay, we're going to add a little bit of this. I'll add the meat here. I'll add this. Turned out fine until this one time, and Liana likes to bring this up when she can. I ended up putting an eggplant into the crock pot. And when I tell you that the eggplant was not there when I opened the crock pot, obviously it disintegrated, so it didn't work. I learned the hard way after many roasts that this is not, it doesn't belong in the crock pot. I do think making this in the crock pot would be fine, would be great. I'm not going to be worried about it coming out bad. I think, it's cooking there for a minute. It's good. Everything's nice. Also, because like the thing is, it's going to go with like a little bit of pasta, a little bit of spaghetti, whatever you're putting it with. It'll be, it's like, 10 minutes, 15 minutes out. Let me make the pasta. Boom, ready. Put that in whenever you're ready to go. I think this goes a long way. And I think this is something that you can make such big amounts of with a set it and forget it mentality, and then jar them, put them in the fridge. Boom. You're good to go.
Give them to friends. Give them as little gifts to people.
Exactly. No one's going to hate you for it. And it's going to be delicious. And it's better than whatever bullshit sauce you're going to get anywhere else. So To me, this is up there. I came in not really wanting, this was not going to be rated high for me. I feel very comfortable putting this higher up than what I thought initially.
You convinced yourself. You're like,
yeah.
You know what? Like, I do like a good meat sauce.
So why am I not doing this more often? Why am I not even considering this? Yeah. Yeah, I think, Tommy, if I was to say where this would go, I think this might be in the... Again, this might be like bottom of No, I Got Food Home, because the idea is, in that situation, you are being asked, do you want to eat food? And it's like, well, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I've got the meat sauce. I can throw a little bit of pasta on the stove. That's fine. No, I got food at home. Like, it's a one step extra than like, I'm just going to go heat it up. Because are you going to eat this in a bowl solo if you are, coming home from a good night out?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's in the not I got food at home. I think, especially if like you look at the other up there with spinach and artichoke dip, I think bolognese fits that same kind of category where it's like, I would be excited to go home and eat bolognese. I want to be searching for a restaurant to try to beat out my bolognese.
Yeah. Katie's asking you to mail her some, so now you have a new task. Okay.
With like little notes written in crayon. Like,
yeah.
Hello, here's your bolognese.
Order your mason jars now. Or what if do people have to mail you the mason jars and then you'll return them with?
Yeah, I think so. Because mason jars can be expensive. They can be pricey.
Yeah, very much so, honestly. Are you next? Yeah, you're next. It's your pick next.
Yeah, so I took over bolognese a little bit. But
oh, no. I mean, this is a 50-50 situation. If you're more passionate about an item, you're more than welcome to. Because there's definitely, I think, one or two that I'm going to have little to no opinion on. But we'll get there.
Cool. The one I want to touch on is, it's like, this is one that I'm interested to hear your opinion on it. Beef stroganoff.
Okay. So, I love it. When I'm eating it, I wouldn't crockpot it. Personally, I wouldn't crockpot it because, again, this kind of goes back to the noodle conversation. And I think I've learned the hard way that outside of like maybe a mac and cheese, I'm not gonna be putting any kind of noodles or macaroni shells into the crock pot. And I think maybe it's a more personal thing. Again, I feel like I fuck it up. So I love beef stroganoff, but you will not catch me putting this in a crock pot just because it's one of those things where it's a you're making a big volume of food usually with a crock pot. Because like, here's the thing. The crock pot you see behind me, like by my head, these ones, I don't fuck with these ones. I have one of those. I have these. I have the big one. So when I make a meal, I'm making hella meals. So if I do this, I might do a beef stroganoff. But if I fuck it up and I have this, I have to eat that. So I have to eat the whole thing. So for me, this is more of a shame meal territory because then if it's mushy, I will not offer it to anyone, but I'll fucking eat it because I made it. So
yeah, and the flavor is still going to be there, even if the noodles are mushy. I'm with you. I like beef stroganoff. It was my first. So in home ec in high school, we had to take that, and we all learned a dish to make. And beef stroganoff was my first dish I learned to make in home ec.
Okay.
So there is that personal feeling towards it. But at the same time, it also feels like, there's foods that just feel like old people food. Beef stroganoff feels like that old people food.
Yeah, I can see that.
It doesn't make it any less delicious, but it's like something I feel like when I think of it, I think of like the old country or like.
Is it like when you're eating scoops of it, you're starting to think about retirement? Is that what the motions you're going through? You're like, so yeah, where am I going to retire? What's the next step for me here?
I'm thinking of my taxes. Yeah. So definitely, I'm leaning towards shame meal. I don't know if it's necessarily like hiding under my bed shame meal, but it's definitely something I want to like advertise that I'm eating. And it's like, I think what we're saying of like, it's because it has so much possibility of failing.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's hide underneath my bed shame meal, but it's definitely, I'm gonna lock the doors before I eat it shame meal. Like, I don't need anyone barging in while I'm eating this and I have to like defend myself, feel defensive and shit. So yeah, I think that's an appropriate spot for it. First item in the shame meal, stroganoff. Okay. Next item we're going to talk about. Again, Tommy, I'm looking at these. I feel like there's maybe little to no chance there's going to be another Binum. But I'm going to pick one that I'm 100% going to lean on you for opinions on because I've never had it. But when I researched it to find the picture, I ended up approving of it somewhat. But a lot of my judgment is going to be leaning on your conversation here. Let's talk about the breakfast casserole that you put in here.
Yeah. So it's funny. I was on, like, I played football in high school, and one of the things we would always do is, like, we would sometimes have, like, family meals, and one of the things would be breakfast casserole in a crock pot. So it's like, I knew that was a thing, and, like, you can go as hard or as little as you want. Like, there's one kid who his breakfast casserole was like a whole event. It was like biscuits, country gravy in there, eggs, bacon, sausage, like everything you could think of, he threw into this casserole. And so,
okay.
I think it's something you can either make in the oven, but you can also do the crock pot, and it's different than some of the other ones where I think it can hold up either way. Like, I don't think it's something where I'm like, oh yeah, it's definitely got to go in the oven. Oh, it's definitely got to go in the crock pot.
Yeah. No, because I looked at this, and I've talked about at this point at length about my love for lasagna. It looks like a breakfast lasagna. It's like layered goodness, and I love breakfast food. So it's like all the goodness, all the breakfast foods kind of put into one. And it's not like a hot mess. It doesn't look like, it's one of those things where, like, if I hear it, I'm like, oh, is it all just going to blend together? No, it's all layered and it's delicious. So I've never really put eggs into a crock pot. But when I looked at this, I was like, I don't care. This looks incredible. So I only hold this in the high school. So you said you played football in high school?
Yeah.
So was Akiva right in calling you Touchdown Tommy? Is that a nickname you have, or is that just randomly
an
Akiva? When I play
football, it's like I was the lineman. I was the extra person. So it's like maybe not like Touchdown Tommy, maybe like more like sideline Tommy, but it's something with a T, like turf Tommy, because I was always on the turf, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Okay. So because I was like curious, I was like, where did he pull touchdown from?
I am big into football, and like definitely a Buffalo Bills fan. So like,
okay, there you go.
I'm originally from the Buffalo area. So,
okay. Okay, so I think that this for me is, I don't know, Tommy. Where would you put this? I want you to give me the first rating.
So from my experiences, and I think it's because it was such a rare occurrence when you have breakfast, because it's a lot. I think in general, when you make breakfast, and not all breakfast, right? Because it's easy to make eggs, but when you're going to go all out and you're buying all these different things, and you really, for me, breakfast casserole is something like, it's an event when you make breakfast casserole.
Right, like you're not really having this solo. You're having this, you have people over, or it's like a brunch with the family, or you got like 2 or 3 people coming over, and or someone spends the night. I feel like this is kind of where you can introduce this. If you have people over for brunch, this is kind of the perfect situation to me.
So I'm in I got food at home, in the sense that it's like where I'm excited to go home and eat this meal.
Yeah, I do think that, was I in a position where I had this once or twice, I might be arguing for above, but I think that's the perfect spot because that's what I'm feeling as well on this. Now, would you say this is above the other 2 items on the tier list or no?
That's what I'm fighting with, because it's like I just saw Katie's point, and she has a good point. This is definitely like a brunch meal or a weekend meal. Like, this is not something you make before school. So it's like, in the same way I'm saying it's up there because it's an event meal, I almost think it's below spinach because it's an event meal.
Okay. How long would this keep? Would it keep just the same as any other meal, do you think? Or is this one of those where it's for that brunch and maybe that evening and then it's done?
I think so, because I think you put hash browns in there, and that goes into our potato talk. And
right.
I think that your problem is potatoes don't reheat well. And I think it almost ruins it if you put, and I think you have to have that hash brown goodness in there.
It's true. Okay. Also, Katie did point out, like the star of the chat today, Tackle Tommy. We didn't fucking think of Tackle Tommy. You thought of Turf Tommy before Tackle Tommy.
I spent more time on the ground than I did tackling people.
Oh man. Also, DT says nice new logo. Thank you. Shout out to Liv who made it happen. I'm very happy with the new redesign on the logo. The baby Yoda beard is no more. We have an actual silhouette of my face, which I'm happy about. Okay. So what did we just talk about? The breakfast casserole. That means it's your turn. It is your turn.
Cool. I'm gonna go with a weird one that I'm like, it's another one where I'm like, I'm interested to see what you think of it, because I think I have my opinion on it. It's salmon in the crock pot.
Yes. Okay. So, salmon in a crock pot. I'm not mad at this at all.
Okay.
I feel like salmon, the more and more I work with it, the more and more you learn that there's new ways, better ways, nice ways to cook it. My go-to is wrap it in tinfoil, put it in the oven with a little bit of lemon on it, a little bit of garlic on there. After 20 minutes, bring it out, unfoil the tin. The juice is still there. It's moist. It's delicious. Crockpot salmon bangs, because if you're doing it right, it will not come out mushy. It will not come out. You're not going to overdo it with a crockpot, certainly. As long as it keeps its integrity and like its shape, it's a good time. But then this goes back to our initial discussion of, does that mean it's not a good crockpot dish if you have to keep an eye on it? And I think that's my only issue with the salmon potentially.
Yeah, and that's where, for me, I'm as big as I am on crockpots. The other device I feel like I use most is the grill, and so like I'm a big wrap it in aluminum foil, put it in the grill with salmon.
That would be even better. I think there are better ways to cook a salmon than to use a crock pot for it. Especially because it does not take that long to cook fish. Like, it really doesn't. So you would be doing yourself a disservice, honestly. Yeah.
And it's hard because it's like, I do think this is probably one of the ones where I feel closest to Benham, but I don't think it's there because it's still delicious. It's just
right.
Like, it's the fact, like you said, of there are so many. My go-to would be, great, we just got the salmon, let's pop it into the crock pot. That's not my first instinct.
Like, I'm pulling up a recipe here that I got from Delish right now, just right out the gate. This is literally everything that I do for the aluminum foil, but they're doing it with the crock pot, and it's 2 hours of cooking. Like, I don't need that. I can literally do this in 20 minutes by using another vehicle for it. And like, lining the slow cooker with parchment paper and all that, like, this is too much work. The whole point of the crock pot is supposed to be quick, easy, set it, forget it, delicious. And you can achieve this in much less time by doing it oven. But I'm 100% with you, Tommy, in that I think that it's still delicious, so I feel like I can't bin them. If I made this like this, it's still You know what? Maybe we should bin it. And here's why. Okay, I'm having a change of heart right out the gate here. So maybe we should bin it because it goes against what the essence of a crock pot is. And there are literally, we can stovetop, oven, grill. There's literally better ways to do this. So I feel like we're not saying the salmon's bad by any means. We're saying you have failed the crockpot test.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing we said about the lasagna, right? Like, we love lasagna. We're not saying we hate lasagna, but I think our thing is it does not scream crockpot to me. Yes.
So then, are you fighting the Binham?
I'm
okay.
I'm like right on the edge of Binham shame. And it's like, again, and I think with either of them, it's not that I'm shamed that I'm eating it. It's more the shame I spent 2 hours putting it in a crock pot when I could have just had it 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I think I'm debating Binham for now. And then if we need to, we can bump it up if we're like if like later on, we're like looking back at that salmon and we're like.
Yeah, if I'm feeling bad for the salmon hanging there with the potatoes, I might save it and pull it up to shame me later. Yeah. Okay.
I think there was a big jump from the salmon to the potatoes too, though.
The potatoes, if there was like a double Binham where like you put it in a trash bag and then you put that in like a dumpster fire, then that's where it would be. It would be one tier below, but we don't have an extra tier here. Yeah. So yeah, okay. So you brought up salmon. I want to go with something that I had at the last potluck I went to, which was Christmas. Me and a bunch of coworkers got together, and that's the meatballs. So we talked earlier about, you said you preferred like more of a meat sauce than a meatball because you have that, it's all encompassing, it's all over everything. You might get that little bit of like meaty texture here and there. But these cocktail meatballs were so fucking good. And I would have never thought to crockpot meatballs. And one of my coworkers did, and I tried them, and it was one of those things where it's like, these aren't my best, like, I'm good friends with my coworkers, but I hadn't hung out with them in person enough. So I was like, I'll just eat like the appropriate amount. Like, I'll take like 3 or 4. But if these were my really good friends that I hang out with all the time, I'd be like, guys, tough luck. Go fucking find something else to eat. This is my plate now. And I would take the whole crock pot and walk away with it. It was so good, Tommy. So good. Like, close to IKEA level good, meatball-wise for me.
So, for me, I'm very passionate about meatballs. And this is something I'll say. I am very anti-frozen meatballs. Very anti-frozen meatballs. I don't think I've had a good frozen meatball. Make a homemade meatball. It's not that hard. I will teach you how to make a homemade meatball, listener out there, because it is so much, like, it is steps above. And I agree with you. I think the crock pot meatball, as long as it's homemade, is so good. It doesn't, I think the problem is, and like, it's funny because sometimes I do like to broil my meatball to get that little like toast on top of it, just a little like crisp on it, you know? But, yeah.
Can I propose a thing? So, let's see, we're in September now. In the month of October, okay, pick a Thursday. You'll come on stream. We'll call it Tutorial Thursdays with Tommy, and you will teach us how to make meatballs homemade style.
Of course, I will do that. I'm in.
All right, perfect. It's happening. It's official. Because like the more you're talking about this, I'm like, Tommy's got shit he wants to teach us, and he's we're gonna make it happen.
As a great Tommy once said, teaching time with Tommy.
Yeah, I don't know about Grant. I feel like you're outranking that Tommy for me personally.
I will give you kicked out of the Tommy family if I like off camera. Who knows?
You're my favorite Tommy that's played a reality TV game of any sort, any kind of like competition game in the last 2 years. I'll say that.
Next tier, the ranking of the Tommies.
Yeah. All right, where's the Binham pile? I'm just kidding. But yeah, go for it.
And what's funny about meatballs is, so it's like obviously you have the marinara sauce, and then someone mentioned, and something I was going to bring up is recently I've been introduced to a grape jelly sauce that you do with meatballs. It's not bad. It's definitely like a Super Bowl kind of football-y feel to it with those. Like those are like the cocktail meatballs, right?
Are they like so with like the grape jelly? Are you putting that on the side, or is this getting? Are you like
baking in it? So
I see.
It becomes more of a sweeter, savory thing. It doesn't like taste like when it cooks down, it doesn't taste straight up like grape jelly. It's more of like it just makes the meatballs a little sweeter, like almost like a barbecue-y kind of sauce, but with grape jelly, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all.
So for me, I am leaning. I feel like it's in the same category as, and it's funny. I feel like this is my go-to. Like everything's ranking around this is the Spinach and Artichoke Dip, because I can confidently in my head know where that is for me. And for me, it's like the Crockpot meatballs are up there. I think it surpasses it. Now, does it surpass? Because what do we have? We have spinach, and then below spinach is the noodles, and below that is the bolognese. So spinach is the top of.
So we got spinach. No, that's breakfast casserole in the middle.
Sorry. The tiny picture got confusing for me.
So I feel like it's, for me at the very least, this is a Now I Got Food at Home.
Yes.
Closing in on Crockpot of Gold. And what I'm starting to see is a little bit of a trend in the middle where the ones that are like more event type things are ending up in the second tier. Like they're like top tier foods, but because of the lack of like frequency, they end up in the second tier, which is kind of what I'm getting here.
I think that's my thing with Crockpot of Gold. It's got to be something that I'm making almost weekly, if not it's something I would make like a pulled pork. I'm not making that for an event. I'm making that just for dinner for myself.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I think for me, it's between spinach dip and the meatballs for who's top of Now I Got Food at Home. But I'm willing to give it second place if you still think that the spinach dip reigns supreme.
I actually think the meatballs beat spinach and artichoke dip.
Okay. I'm very down with that. Okay, so we do that. All right. Where do you want to go next?
All right, so we got rid of the meatballs. I'm going to go with chicken fajitas.
Chicken fajitas. Okay. I mean, these are just delicious, man. And I feel like you can, again, these kind of the same as the pulled pork. You can have it at any time. You can have it a meal for yourself. But these also you could have for an event. You can have you have a couple friends over, easy fix, and then people can do what they want with them. But you've got and it cooks so well in a crock pot for me. The fact that, because obviously with fajitas, you do them stovetop too, fresh, hot, they're delicious. I like that because they're made in a crock pot, they definitely have an extra bit of moisture to them, which could be good or bad depending on the type of person you are. So like some people prefer like just the crispy, the dry, not too like wet. Obviously when they're sitting in the sauce, they don't have that effect, but I do think that it works. For me, this works very well. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely for me, I haven't had a chicken fajita in a long time, but when I think of it, like I made them in crock pots, and like just thinking about it now, I'm like, fond memories of those good old chicken. Like I'm like thinking about like, maybe I need to make that today. Like that's where my mind went. It's like I need to make that right now.
You're like that chicken fajita in 2014 though. Yeah.
But this is my only question is, and I do think the crock pot trumps it because I do think it's more flavorful in the crock pot. And that's the one thing that a crock pot does do is like mostly it usually brings out more flavor because it's sitting in its own, it's sitting there for so long in its own juices. I wonder about if like, and I don't know if we're counting like peppers and onions in this, like that's the only thing that I'm like, because do you have to throw those in right away, or are those ones that you like? So
here's the thing. I was thinking about this because I don't mind throwing peppers and onions into a crock pot at all. For a fajita, if they're gonna end up being in like a sandwich or in between like, you know, a tortilla or anything, like something else is going with them, I feel like maybe the move is you make the chicken, let that be in the juices, that's all good. Then right as you're about to get ready to eat, you throw your peppers and onions onto the stove and just have those cook right then and there. And then you have the perfect balance of your stovetop situation and your crock pot, like moist, delicious chicken slapped together. Maybe that's the move.
It's like one of those, like you put the chicken on all day and then right before dinner time, you're throwing the tortilla on a pan to warm that up a little bit. Or you're throwing it in the oven. You're throwing your vegetables on. And then you're getting that char that I think some people like. Because that's one thing I do think people sometimes like that char on their peppers. Like
the char is very good.
I think that is the perfect combo. And for me, this is because again, like we talked about it, it's like it's something that you can make weekly. You know, even though I didn't have one in a long time, I'm personally leaning towards Crockpot of Gold, but I can be talked down.
No, I'm with you. This might end up, depending on what else comes up here, it might be one of the lower of the Crockpot of Gold, but I think it belongs in there for sure because you can't go wrong with this. You really can't. If you're in a bind, you want your fajitas, but like you have to run errands, you have to study, you have shit to do for 4 hours. You can be like, you know what? I don't even want to cook it later for like 20 minutes. I'll just throw it into the crock pot and come back out later. So, yeah. I think this belongs here. So typically, Tommy, when we do these tier lists, a lot of them have been food ones. And what happens with the chat is people get hyped beforehand, or they're in the chat, they're getting hungry, they'll order something to match it. Dippin' Dots in the chat is saying, my only gripe with this week is I can't just pull up DoorDash or Instacart and get it for lunch. I have to put the work in. That's the thing. We're like this week we're going a little healthy. Maybe it's like, hey, let's do something at home. I'm telling you, it was very easy for me to do the crock pot today because I was like hyped already about all this stream. It's not on here. Might as well talk about it real quick, Tommy. I'm making honey garlic chicken.
Ooh, I almost put that on there, but like I love a good honey garlic. That's good.
Yeah,
that's gonna be.
Yeah, so I got honey garlic chicken being made. I've got the rice cooker rice is done at this point. It's just keeping warm. And then after this, I'm going to throw some asparagus in the oven. And then that's dinner. Boom. Ready to go. So.
And like, well, okay, let me pitch this then. For people that, what if we create a restaurant that is just all crock pots? The entire restaurant is just crock pots.
I think that's incredible. The other thing is, here's the other thing. Okay, so it's a restaurant that's just crock pots. If that's successful, if people love the food, we open a second place that's called a crock pot hot pot, where friends come over, they sit at a booth, they've got a crock pot in the middle, they do whatever the fuck they want. There's a TV, there's gaming consoles. They can just chill for like 3-4 hours and have their food be made right there and there together, and they're just hanging out. We're just an avenue for them to do that stuff at.
Yeah, like a hangout place. Yeah, I like that. It reminds me of, and this is like a kind of a tangent, my brother and I always wanted to make, we've talked about it, this may be weird, but a restaurant where it's like you're making dishes for today, but people can also order, like it's basically like a place that serves leftovers. So if you want, like, you know how sometimes people like cold pizza the next day? It's like a restaurant where it's like if you want, you can eat the pizza from last night. And it's like a reduced price, but it's like some people love leftovers.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I've been in positions where I've gone into a store or something, and I'll see the reduced price. Oh, it's a day old. I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'll take the day old. I do not mind. So I think that would be a good idea too. Katie's like, is that a buffet with the whole Crockpot restaurant? It kind of is, but like every Crockpot has a different. Yeah, I think it's like a Crockpot buffet, basically, is what I'm thinking. Or
which may not be hot right now.
No, but that's one of the sadnesses for me is that buffets are canceled until further notice. No longer can I just indulge in plates and plates of food without anyone keeping track of what I'm eating. So that's got to wait for a little bit. But yeah. Kat says these have very strong idea energy. These are definitely 4 o'clock, 4:20 in the morning kind of ideas, but it doesn't mean I don't love them any less.
I have some crock pot ideas of like some out there ideas sometimes, and most of them aren't high. It's just my brain sometimes.
your settings are that way.
Yeah, it's like I was born now.
Okay, so we talked about the fajitas last. Let's go with I want to talk about oh my god, which one of these isn't going to end up there? Okay, let's talk about the queso. Okay? Queso. So again, I believe is this hot or cold for you consumption wise?
It has to, I think hot. I think for me, queso it's like that nacho cheese, right? So it's got to be like
right.
A very hot, very spicy queso, right?
Yeah. No, I think I'm the same way about it. I think that, the crock pot is made for you can literally, that's the beauty of the crock pot is that if it's the liquid based dish, it'll do it to perfection. If it's not liquid based, you can still get away with making it if timed right, if done well. So for me, this is a very easy, I'm never going to make queso in any other way if I'm making it myself. This is the one method I think is the best way to go about it. And it is a good time. And it has to be hot. And I think that if I hit keep warm on the queso, I don't think it's going to fuck it up. You know what I mean? I have a feeling it might not, but maybe I could be wrong.
I agree with you. I think queso is one of those dishes that it's hard to mess up queso. My only counter to queso is queso, even at its top of top, is queso ever really a wow? Have you ever had fire queso? Right.
I've never been like, let me get that queso recipe. That's never going to happen.
You're just eating queso.
Yeah.
You were going to eat queso on maybe like a sandwich, and then you start eating the queso. You're like, you know what? I'm just eating the queso now. This is all I'm eating today.
Yeah. This is never going to happen. And I do think that for me, this is, talking about an event, talking about having people over, I would much rather hit them with any of the other top 2 items, or especially like the artichoke dip, than I'm going to do the queso. The queso is kind of like, it's like a thing for me. If I'm really feeling a queso vibe, that's what I'm gonna do. Or if we're having like a movie night with some friends, or if I'm having a hangout with just some close friends, not like trying to impress anybody, this is what I'll throw on. Ultimately, yeah. I do think this ends up for me in either it's food or bottom of I got it at home, because honestly, I feel like I feel like I'm not too pressed about the queso.
I think it's top of ants food. It's like I'm not ashamed of the queso. If it's at a party, I'm eating it. But it's not out of the dips that we have on this list. This is not a dip that I am running towards. Like,
I'm never gonna end up being in a position where they're like, oh, we've got like nachos here or we've got chips here. I'm never gonna be like, yo, you don't have queso? I'm fucking leaving. That's not gonna happen. But I do think that the reason it's top of ants food for me is that it is very good to make in a crock pot, and that should give it a bit of a bump.
I've never had I personally never messed up queso.
I don't think it's possible. You have to really fuck it up for it to be bad. So yeah, I think this belongs here. Once again, Marcus, of course, has been upset because Marcus says queso is number 1. And then, Marcus said queso's best hot, but still good cold. Marcus, microwave it at least at that point. But even then, I don't want to, I think it's, I don't know.
If you're eating queso cold, essentially that's just eating cheese dip, which is fine. But like then you're just like to me that's not queso anymore.
Right. Yeah.
It's cheese dip. You're scooping your hand in some cheese dip. Like,
yeah,
that's what you're doing.
Yeah, which could be the case.
Yeah, but that would be for me. That's now shame under the bed. Like that's me under the bed with my hand in a jar of cheese.
Yeah, that's the under the bed type of eatings. Where do you want to go next now?
All right, so
as we get closer,
hit our queso. Yeah, we're getting down on it. Let's go with like something that's definitely very specific. Let's talk about the corned beef and cabbage.
Okay, let's. So you put this on this list. What are your feelings towards corned beef, towards cabbage, towards the combination in a crock pot?
So I'm definitely, I do like cabbage, actually. I know some people are hit or miss about that. I am a corned beef and cabbage guy. Obviously, it isn't a vet meal. It is like, you make it for St. Patrick's Day. You can make it for other times.
Is it a St. Patrick's Day like staple? Like is that?
From my understanding, for me, it always has been. Like my grandma is very traditional about things. Like we always eat like sauerkraut and pork on New Year's because it brings you good luck. Like that's something.
Okay.
And to me, corned beef and cabbage was that for St. Patrick's Day. You always eat corned beef and cabbage, and I think it has to be in a crock pot. I've never made it outside a crock pot, and to me, you get that. You get a nice Guinness beer with it, and that's like again, it's like that event kind of thing. And I've never messed it up.
Okay.
You can definitely mess it up, but I personally, my experience with the corned beef has always brought me happiness, not sad boy time.
Yeah, I feel like I fucks with corned beef. It's delicious meat. You can't go wrong with that. I am very like in and out with cabbage as far as my love for it goes. Like I'll have it and I'm like, oh yeah, this bangs, and then I'll have it another time, like, oh, why did I have this? So that is my bad, or like a fault of mine. But I do fuck with corned beef. Now my question is, of all the meats here, which one would I be going for? Personally, corned beef doesn't end up being a higher up one. You did mention events. I can't remember the last time I did have corned beef, so I think that point is very valid. I do think it cooks well in a crock pot, though. To my knowledge, it's been good. So
and obviously this is different, but like, how do you feel about like corned beef on a sandwich? Like, do you eat a lot of corned beef sandwiches, or is it that like if you're gonna grab a sandwich, your mind doesn't go, yeah, man, I'm really craving a corned beef sandwich?
Corned beef doesn't come to mind often for me, and I think it mostly has to do with the fact that growing up, it wasn't a thing that I knew about, or it wasn't on my radar. So a lot of other things were on my radar, and they ended up taking the precedent all the time. So even now, I'm not seeking it out because I don't know whether I should be trying it or not. Say if I go to a certain restaurant or whatever, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be good, but it's like, I know this beef is going to be good or whatever. So for me personally, this is one of the ones where I said I'd lean on you for the rating a little bit, because I don't have a close enough experience with corned beef and cabbage to be able to give this a appropriate rating.
To me, based on like, because I'm trying to factor both of us in, I actually think it's in its food.
Okay.
Maybe around where lasagna is.
Okay.
Of if it's there, I'm probably eating it, and I'm not like mad about it. But I wouldn't like, except for an event. I think events are the one exception where I think it does go higher if you're just factoring in the event.
Right. If you're saying like foods at an event, and it's there's the sauerkraut you mentioned, like stuff that's supposed to be eaten for certain holidays or events, this would rank higher for you in that list. Okay.
Yeah, and if we're talking about like someone mentioned a Reuben, yeah, if this is like a Reuben, that's that's different. If we're talking about Reubens, I love a good Reuben sandwich. Reuben,
I feel like, is a different animal. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think if we're talking about specifically corned beef and cabbage, I think it's more of I'll eat it if it's at an event, but I'm not like telling someone to make it for an event.
Right. So, did we decide whether the queso was above the corned beef or not?
I think queso's above it.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Yeah, so Marcus, I forgot to tell you this, but if the queso doesn't make you say this,
oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Then it's not good, okay? Just so you know, Marcus. But we'll move on. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about here. Actually, no, you know what? I said corned beef, didn't I? So it's your turn.
No, I said corned beef.
You said corned beef? Okay, I always do. I always forget. Okay, so this was on the list, and I want to talk about it because this was the first thing that got me hella hungry today and got me motivated to, you know what, I need to make that for myself real soon. I want to talk about the buffalo chicken dip. Okay? Wow. I feel like, to me, this is the elite dip. This is a great time. This is something that food TikTok took over during this past year and really started elevating it. Every second page had a, had its own like buffalo chicken dip situation. Love it. Love it to death. If you told me to pick between the dips we have today, this would be the pick. This is number one for me. This is incredible. This you can have at an event. I wouldn't even be fucking mad to make this for myself and just have loads of it at hand, ready to go. You can eat this with other stuff. You could eat this. I would eat this with a spoon because I'm gonna be weird like that. But let me get your opinions on this.
And honestly, I'd probably eat it cold. I want it cold, but if I'm like hungry and I don't have time to microwave it or like in the next day,
fuck it. Yeah.
So obviously this is something I was definitely biased towards. I'm from the Buffalo area. Buffalo wing dip is literally like injected into our veins as children. Like I almost put it, but I knew it was too niche. Is like growing up, my mom made buffalo wing soup. That's another thing.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So like buffalo, everything, we're always about it. Buffalo wing dip. If you've never had it, go out and make it. It is so fire. It has every kind. It has the spicy. It has the cheesy. It has the meaty. It has everything you could want in a dip. You can make it in the oven. You can make it in the crock pot. And to me, it doesn't. I don't go, you have to make it in the oven. And I don't go, you have to make it in the crock pot. But even though I'm saying that, I still think it's up there. Like I think when I think of crock pot recipes, my go-to recipe to send to people is a buffalo wing dip. Yeah.
No, this is very much, I think, one of those that's like, it's an entry level. Like it's a very easy one to do, but it's also phenomenal. And I think that this is one of the ones that for me would always be a go-to. I like all the things that go into it. I think all of them are elite. So this is, so I think we're, okay, if I had to predict, I'm saying you're going to go with Crockpot of Gold here. Now, the question is this above the fajita and the pulled pork? And I might be leaning above, I might be like leaning above, at least above the fajita is what I would say.
I'm above fajita. Okay. I can hear the argument for above. It's hard for me to put, but it doesn't even feel like a dip sometimes. It's almost is. Like,
it's hardy enough that it isn't to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Because that's the thing is like it's hard for me to make a dip, number one, but it's so versatile.
Yeah. Like I think for me, I guess the ultimate question is, because like, let's see, with the pulled pork, you can put it in a sandwich. You can have like a pulled pork bowl kind of thing. You can honestly have like a bed of rice next to it. I think there's a lot of things you can do with the pulled pork. Can we do the exact same with the buffalo wing dip? I mean, the buffalo. Yeah, I would certainly do that. I think I would personally be fine doing that. But would it be one of those things where it's like, I think it's normal, but other people would think it's weird? Because then if it's not as versatile, then we should leave it at second.
And maybe I'm like, that's what's hard, right? Because we're both obviously fans of it. So it's like, it's hard to know. It's hard because for me, I'm singing about this to like random strangers on a bus. Like if I have buffalo wing dip at home, I'm telling everybody at work. I'm shouting it from the rooftops. Yeah, I'm going home and eating buffalo wing dip. I'm not doing that with pulled pork, but that's also me, right?
Right. Like pulled pork is probably more normalized in the sense that everyone's kind of like, it's pulled pork. But if I'm like buffalo wing, to be like, oh shit, where'd you get it from? Oh, you made it. Okay. So to me, it's like, I can hear our bias now.
It's a little more event. If we're doing that, like I'm still good at putting it in the crock pot of gold, but it is more eventy than like the pulled pork, where it's like people will just eat pulled pork on a dinner night. I don't know if someone's making buffalo wing dip. They may make it more frequently than some of the other event things, but I don't think they're making it for, it's for like, all right, hey kids, come around. We're just having buffalo wing dip tonight.
Yeah. Okay. I think we leave it at second. And we leave the pulled pork just because of I think the pulled pork, if we polled a bunch of people, I think pulled pork would win. So for that alone, let's just leave it at top. But I think in our hearts, the buffalo is first.
If this was a Puya and Tommy only, no one was seeing this list.
Yeah.
It might be higher.
Exactly. I agree. Okay. So where do you want to go next now?
Okay. Well, there's a lot left, but there's also, we're getting down to it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with something that one of our more variety ones, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to hit up let's skip to dessert. Let's go to the chocolate cake.
Yeah. Okay. So would you like to explain how chocolate cake ends up on this list?
Yeah. So for me, I definitely wanted some sort, because you can do a lot of desserts in a crock pot. I think that's something that like a lot of people won't think about. Mm-hmm. And like, I think a big one is brownies. That's one that definitely gets mentioned. But I think for me, I think crock pot cake, it's more of a lot of times, I mean, it can just be a chocolate cake. It can also be a lava cake. I've seen that done before with a chocolate lava cake. And I think it's kind of what you said with the feed of it keeps its moistness. And I think that's why it kind of works for a crock pot, is you still get that moistness from the crock pot.
Yeah.
I don't think it's something people will think of, but I think it's like what you said of, I want to be mad if I see this at a party, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Give me some of that chocolate cake.
Yeah. I think that the fact that it contains the moisture, that's very important. And I just the novelty of, I do think this is one of the things that people do not expect. They can make a chocolate cake and, oh, you don't have a baking pan? That's fine. You have a crock pot, you can still fucking do this and it'll still be delicious. It might take longer. I would assume it's going to take longer. Which again, maybe for that I'm not as mad at with like the fish, because when you're making the fish, you're supposed to be eating that meal. You can be baking a cake to go to a party later, to take to a party, to take to an event, or you could be baking a cake and then like cutting it up to pieces, taking it to work the next day. I feel like that, like you're a lot less likely to need that cake right then and there for eating than you are a fish. So for that reason, I'm keen on the chocolate cake. I think the novelty that not many people would expect that you can do this with a chocolate cake. Dippin' Dots does say you can make a chocolate cake in a microwave too. Yes, but at what cost?
I've never had a good microwave chocolate cake. I'm going to be honest with you there.
Like that's like the desperate measures of I just need to really feel a chocolate cake, so I'm going to make it in the microwave. It never ends up tasting the way I want it to.
I think my thing with the crock pot, and it's the boldness of the person that makes someone. If I see someone bring a crock pot chocolate cake to a party, I know they did their research. I know that they wanted to be bold. They wanted to go out there and they wanted to choose. They wanted their crock pot recipe to be different than every other. They didn't want to do another buffalo wing dip. They didn't want to do another queso dip. They wanted to do a dessert in a crock pot. And for that, I think it has to be raised.
Like, here's the thing. So this is 3 hours, 20 minutes, but fucking look at it. Look at that. Does that not look like the most amazing thing in the world? Like, please look at how moist that looks. Like, phenomenal. Yeah, no, this to me is incredible. Obviously, then if we're gonna be seriously and taking into consideration like, but the prep time and everything, I still think as a dessert, the fact that you can make this in a crock pot and I know it'll be delicious, I think this is not I got food at home. Because if I have this at home, I'm not trying to stop at a Baskin Robbins or fucking Cold Stone or anywhere else for dessert. I'm good. We can just go home. Let's skip that ride.
Yep, I completely agree with you. I think it's definitely in I'm good. I got my cake. And I got my cake and I'm going to eat it too. That's where I'm at.
Like, just this picture, I can tell that this cake is like delicious. Just looking at this. The fact that it's chocolate cake too, that has my bias because that's my favorite cake. Or is it now cheesecake? It's like a good competition between the two.
We could do a whole cake thing too because I'm a big pineapple upside down cake. I don't know why. I've just always been a big pineapple upside down.
Interesting.
It's the caramelization it's the caramelization of the pineapple at the bottom.
Do you think that would work in a crock pot?
I've heard of it. I am more of a fan of it in an oven, and then I've also had grilled pineapple upside down cake, and that's actually not bad either.
Okay. Let's see. Fruit-based desserts are good in the crock pot. Why can't I think of any off the top of my head? I'm also not a big fruit-based dessert guy, so that might be why I don't have any in my head right now.
I think a cobbler, right? Like someone said, like a blackberry cobbler.
Oh, I've
or like
never had a
blueberry
cobbler.
Oh,
Ever.
yeah. It's the streusel. Like anything's better with that, like the crunchy top. You put that on anything. Like like sweet potato casserole, and there's like the marshmallow version. Throw out the marshmallow version. I'm telling you now, the streusel version, the pecan streusel is always better, and I think that's what the cobbler is. You have that crunchy top, and that makes it dessert 10 times better.
Okay, yeah, like so I've never had a cobbler, and I've only had pie once in my life, and that was last year Thanksgiving. I spent it with Liana and her family, and we had, was it peach, pumpkin, and pecan, I think. And pecan was my favorite. I hated the pumpkin.
Oh, good pecan.
But I'm just not a pumpkin person. But so I've definitely got much to learn and much to experience. There's a lot going on. There's a lot I haven't tried, gang. So be patient with me. We'll get there.
You need a pie taste test day where you just sit here with your tons of pies.
Yes. I'm not. Yeah, and I'm by no means am I shitting on pie or cobblers. I've just never experienced it. So
yeah.
Okay. So you went with the chocolate cake. I want to go with this because I have a question about it. So stuffed peppers. I've had these. They're delicious, and there's no disagreement there. The one thing I want to ask real quick before we go in on it. Okay, wait. Kelly in the chat. Okay, I have to breaking news this. Kelly in the chat says, "My wedding has no cake, only pie."
Wow.
Why?
Wow.
Not even cupcakes? Not even like little mini cakes?
Yeah, I feel like, but like, is it a layered pie? And then are you still doing the traditional, like having the little pieces of you and Colin on top? Or is it just a pie, like a really is it like a big diameter pie? Like, I have questions here. I have so many questions here.
I'm imagining a giant pie, and they're actually getting married in the pie. They're standing inside the pie and getting married.
So they are the pieces on top of the pie themselves?
Yeah, because it's going to work into the speech. It's all about how their ingredients in this pie, and the pie is their marriage. They could go into so many different things.
Okay,
there.
So Colin's grandma's saying, what flavor? How big is the pie? Is it a layered pie? And then are you still putting the thing on top? Those are the questions we have.
My question is, are you standing in the pie? That's all I have.
Well, you've now been hired as the new wedding planner, according to Kelly.
I am an ordained minister, so.
There you go. Yeah, my best friend is too, actually. I feel like have you officiated a wedding yet, then?
I've been close. I got it because I was supposed to, and then some things fell through, and I couldn't go to it. But it's also like a funny bit to be able to be like, hey, I'm an ordained minister. Look at me.
Can you do that, hypothetically, would you be able to officiate someone via the internet?
I'd have to look into it. I think as long as so the big things is with ordaining, it's like, if you take away the religious part, like the big things is you need the verbal,
right,
and you need the written. But you also need to be qualified for that county, and so you would have to do all the paperwork. I think once you did that, I don't know, like that would be a good question.
Yeah,
I'd have to do the research for it, but I don't see why not. As long as you got vetted and like.
Yeah, I'm just saying this because for some reason when you said that, I'm just envisioning some kind of a out of nowhere Zoom call that goes viral where like. One of these sequestered Zoom calls or games, you just end up officiating a wedding in the middle of. I just have a feeling that we're on the cusp of that at some point.
It's like, hey, we're at Final Four. If you let me get to Final Two, I'll do the wedding right now. Bring your loved one in right now. We'll just do it real quick.
Yeah, for your question to me in the Final Two, I'll just do that instead. I won't answer a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the stuffed peppers. So. Is this, we're making the stuffing for the peppers in the crock pot and then we're putting them into the pepper? We're not putting them in the pepper, then crock potting the pepper, right?
So I have actually, this is one where I haven't done it in the crock pot, but it's like with the other thing where I was intrigued by the idea because I've had stuffed peppers. And when I saw it can be crock potted, I figured it deserved its merit because it is something different. And like, I think It's definitely one that I wonder if people do it more in the oven. But I think it's one of those. It's like, again, it's like a lot of times people do crock pots because they work, right? If you're working during the day, you don't want to have to come home at the end of the day and then stuff your peppers and then put them into the oven. Do this, you have to make the stuff. So I think from what I'm seeing, you make the stuff beforehand on the grill or on the stove, and then you put them into the peppers, and then you put the peppers in. So you let the peppers just take those flavors in the crock pot.
I see. Yeah, this is a slam dunk for me. It's like a fancier delivery of a meal. To me, I think this is fun. It's enjoyable. If you have people over and you pull out the stuffed peppers, it looks distinguished. I like that it carries itself. Like, it's also its own container. I'm a fan of that. So this is low-key a bit of a win for me. I don't know if I'm willing to put it in like the upper echelon, the top of the top, like Crockpot of Gold. But I would be willing to make a discussion about considering having this in the second tier of, no, I got food at home.
Yeah, I'm definitely in between that and it's food. I don't think it's in the top for me.
Yeah.
But it's definitely in between the second and third. And if it's in the third, it's in the top of the third.
Yes, I agree.
I'm leaning towards the bottom of the second because I agree with you. It's not to the point where I'm like, I'd still choose this over going to a restaurant because it's so unique. I think that's the thing too. It's like, it's a unique dish that if I made this, I put the time. It's like the breakfast casserole. I put the time to make stuffed peppers.
Yeah, I agree. This is something I'd be very willing to like do the work for. So, Tommy, is it your turn next?
Yes, you did the stuffed peppers.
Yeah, so this is going to be a fun game. So I need to just go turn the crock pot off. Just give it a quick look, turn it off. Pick the next one, start talking about it so that the chat knows what you're talking about. I'll come back in and I'll guess what you've picked based on what you're saying about it. Okay, I'll be right back.
All right. Hey guys, this is Tommy's stream now. We're calling ourselves Tommyism now, baby. Okay, I'm going to pick, I think I'm going to go with chicken and dumplings. So I'm actually a big chicken and dumplings fan. And I think what I like about chicken and dumplings is like your dumpling could be anything, right? And that's the question. Do you do more of like a biscuity dumpling or do you do more of a crunchy? I'm a fan of more of like a Pillsbury Doughboy where it's like soft and has a little bit of a bounce to it. But I think that some people I think when you do like a country gravy, that's going to be like a biscuit. Like that's a heavy boy biscuit. Like that biscuit's going places. For me, this is definitely up in the second or third tier. We'll see what Puya thinks. But what do you guys think? What do you think about chicken and dumplings? Is that like a go? To me, that's a comfort meal too. Like I'm a happy boy when I'm eating chicken and dumplings. And my mom, it feels like my mom's like tucking me in. She's spoon feeding me chicken and dumplings. And I'm like sitting there with like a happy boy smile. Maybe I have like a nice glass of water. I don't know what else, like what other drink you would have with chicken and dumplings. I don't think a soda. I think that's too aggressive. Maybe like a cider or like a wine. I don't know. I feel like chicken and dumplings. But on the same side as when I say it's a comfort meal, do we think it's too heavy? It is one of the heavier meals we've talked about, and we haven't even discussed that of like where your location is for these crock pot meals. These are all the thoughts that I've been having. Now I get the time to talk about it. But yeah, I definitely feel like chicken and dumplings is up there for me, and I think that it also depends on the sauce. And then do you add vegetables? I think I put some carrots in there, maybe peas, but you don't think vegetables? I don't think I've had it with just chicken and gravy. I think I have to put like some sort of peas and carrots in there. Because then it's like little pockets of healthiness that make me feel a little bit better. If I have like little pockets of like peas and carrots. Hey.
I'm not going to lie to you. I got a little carried away. I sampled it and I was like, okay, this is good. I flipped them and I just left them there. I was like, wait, fuck, I'm on stream still. So I ran back. Okay.
Oh, dude, I could have talked for days. I went into so much depth of this item.
Okay. So do you like the item? I'm not looking at the chat. I've minimized the chat. I can't see the chat, so we're good.
I do like the item.
You do like the item. And okay. And is this okay? So I feel like I don't know what to ask without outright like asking directly. So is this something that you approve of in crockpot form?
Oh, I don't know. This may not be on your list. This might have been crossed off and I didn't realize it.
Oh, that'd be so funny.
I'm looking at the pictures now. I don't know if it's on there. I think it is. I do approve it.
Oh my God. You know what? I think I know what it is, because there was one item. I think there was an extra item that I removed, but I forgot about it when I told you I removed items. I said I removed 2. I think I removed 3.
See, I'm passionate about this one too.
Shit.
I'm surprised.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Let me see. Did I?
In depth. It doesn't have to go on the list because I've mentally put it on a list for the viewers.
Is it the dumpling?
It's the chicken and dumplings.
Fucking A. My bad. Okay.
Because I was telling them it's a super comfort meal for me. Mm-hmm. I said the dumplings is like a big thing too, because it's like, do you want more of a Hardy Boy biscuit, or do you like your like Pillsbury fluffy with a little bit of bounce, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, it has like versatility in that way. So I'm actually high on chicken and dumplings, but I get why you didn't put it on the list, because it is very similar to some of our heavier meals, you know? Yeah, a little bit. I'm pulling it up so that the chat can see this. But yeah, it is a hearty meal. It is a good meal. I think it's like the perfect middle between, because it's not a soup by any means, but it's consumed in a bowl similar to a soup, possibly. That's a thing that happens. But it is a whole meal. It's a good time. And I was saying veggies. I think you throw a little bit of veggies in there. I think so too. Some peas and some carrots, maybe. Yeah. No, I think so too. I mean, this picture has peas and carrots in it, so definitely, I think that's what you add in there. Yeah. Someone said, "Is it a stew?" I don't know if it's a stew, because I don't think of like biscuits and gravy. I don't think of that as a stew. Mm-hmm. I think of it as like it's almost just its own dish. Yeah, it's like stew adjacent. It's like that. It's like a in between of soup and stew, I would say. Somewhere there. Somewhere on that like line, yeah. Okay, so then what would you like to pick instead, now that you've talked about an item that's not on the list? Yeah. when the Tommy takeover talks about something that literally adds an extra item just to one up Puya. So I'll tell you, so just to be safe, so we've got beef stew, mac and cheese, ribs, sloppy joes, chili, and chicken tikka on the old list here. I'm gonna go. What did we so before? What was the one we just did? We did stuffed peppers. I'm gonna go with beef stew. Beef. We just talked about stews. We just talked about that kind of thing. How do you feel about beef stew? Because I think beef stew has gotten a negative connotation with it. Oh yeah, especially if you're a fan of the 90 Day Fiancé franchise. There's this old lady named Debbie who's known for her beef stew, and we hate Debbie, so automatically you don't like beef stew in that context. So I think beef stew is, kind of the perfect winter meal. It's hearty. It's got a lot going on. You got your potatoes, got your beef. I like it. I think there's a lot that goes on with that. I do think that we talked about like an old person's meal. I feel like that's what beef stew gets a rap for as well. Like if I said, "Would you like to come over? I made beef stew," you'd be like, "Puya, are you 85?" Like I think that's the next question. But I do think it's the quintessential crockpot meal. This is the type of meal you would learn to make for one of the first meals you learn how to make in a crockpot when you move away for college or something. And it's like, oh, you need that home style vibe. Or if you make something, I feel like you're a lot more likely to make like a beef stew if you're making something that's more of an all-encompassing, has a little bit of everything that you need for like a proper meal. And it's easy. It's not, I think it's the thing, a lot of our top tier things, they're not a lot of ingredients. And beef stew is not a lot of things. I think your point about when you think crockpot, you think stew. And I think also like we're big potato guys. I think because they're thicker potatoes, they don't run into the issues that the scallop potatoes run into. I agree. And I think that I just think the whole meal it holds its own. It's a hold its own without any problem. Now, did I think I was going to come in here and rate beef stew highly? To be honest, no. Because for some reason, I didn't think that I was going to rate beef stew all that much. But the more we've talked about the crockpot meals, what makes a crockpot, what is important with regards to these rankings, I'm more keen on thinking and rating beef stew higher at this point. Now, is it going like which tier? That I'm not sure. Where are you feeling right now? Yeah, and the more I talk about it, it's like it definitely brings back those like warm. We talk when the mysterious non-rated chicken and dumplings. We talk about like comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
Crockpot stew. You get like a nice biscuit with that. You dip the biscuit into the gravy of the beef stew. It's just like, to me, it definitely, growing up in cold weather, beef stew definitely reminds me of just like comfort. So for me, it's higher. I don't know if it's Crockpot. I'm between not I Got Food at Home and Crockpot of Gold. And if it is Crockpot of Gold, it's behind Fajitas. But I think that I'm leaning towards, but I think it goes below. You know what's convincing me? I think because we put Meatballs in I Got Food at Home, I think it goes below Meatballs.
Okay, we can do that. Yeah, but I do think that, shout out to stew, because literally I think stews are kind of what crockpots were, I would imagine, initially made for. And then all the other stuff that we like were learnt and adapted along the way. But I do think that the fact that stews are a hearty meal, they're great for the winter, and they're just such an easy fix to get like that meal. So I think it's a good pick. I think leaving it in the top of the second tier is good for now. We're almost at the end here. We can do a quick re-examine before we get out of here. Maybe it moves up. Who knows?
Yeah, because I'm honestly looking at Meatballs again, and that's doing something for me. Like, thinking of that, I definitely...
Yeah. We'll discuss it before we finalize it at the end. So I want to talk about this item next. I made these in a crock pot recently, like about a month and a half ago. Delicious. I was very proud of myself for it, even though all I did was kind of like prepare it and then the Crockpot did the rest. But I was very surprised with how great they came out. I'm going to talk about ribs here. I was shocked.
You don't think, when you hear ribs, you do not think Crockpot.
Not even a little bit. Immediately you're thinking a smoker or a grill. Like, you're not making ribs in a slow cooker Crockpot at all. But my God, Tommy, these were great. I will say some of the pieces turned out a little too fucking dry, but that was my fault. I left them in too long. I forgot to unplug. That was my bad. However, there were pieces in there that were so good that I knew if I had kept my eye on it at the end and just remembered and set an alarm, these would have been the best thing I would have made in the Crockpot by a long shot.
Ribs proves the benefits of a Crockpot in the sense that a good ribs falls off the bone. It's got that, and crock pots give ribs the opportunity to shine.
Yes.
In a way ribs should. And it's not something you think of. And to me, it's the same. To me, ribs and salmon were the same kind of mindset of, you don't think to put them into a crock pot. The difference for me is I don't think salmon benefits in the crock pot. I think ribs benefits a lot from being in the crock pot.
I agree. I think that the crock pot maintains its moisture. I think that a crock pot is an easier way for you to get something cooked that is probably complicated and you have to do it right for it to turn out right. Whereas salmon, it's going to give you the exact same result, and there's already a very, very easier way for you to do it. Katie says, crock pot ribs are good. However, you can do them in an Instant Pot that are just as good, if not better.
Get your Instant Pots out of here.
Whoa! Are you anti-instant?
You know what it is? I think it's the same as like before I went to Disney, I'm like, I'm not a big Disney guy. And then I finally went to Disneyland. I think if I had an Instant Pot, I would become one. I actually don't have one. I feel very traditional in my crock pot. Like, I'm like old man Tommy with his beef stew serving it to the children outside. Like, that's how I feel. So it's like, I guess let me bring back my hate. I don't know the Instant Pot. I would like to go on a date with an Instant Pot. I would like to experiment with an Instant Pot. Really feel it out before I make a decision on it.
Yeah, it was around Thanksgiving. I believe, it was on the heels of Black Friday. I think Amazon had a deal for an Instant Pot at like $70 Canadian. And I was like, buying it. Bought it, didn't open it because I was like, at some point I'm going to move here and I'll have utility for it here. We'll open it here. And then because of COVID, we couldn't do the Liana drives up to pick me up and then we'd leave together. I had to get a plane ticket and leave with like minimal luggage. So it's still in Canada in its packaging. And again, I'm big on food TikTok, and Instant Pot bangs for sure. I can tell it's great. I can't wait to like make me some different things in there. I look forward to eventually getting an air fryer. So I'm all for the new age of here's a tabletop appliance that's going to make you good food. But given that I haven't tried it yet, I'm also with you of like, I don't know. I imagine it'll do it and it'll do it well and it'll do it quicker for sure. But I needs to start doing it. And then maybe when you get your Instant Pot, we'll come back and we'll do an Instant Pot recipes and we'll get there. That'll be the sequel.
I'm willing to try one. Maybe that's my Christmas gift this year. You know, maybe I evolve from Crockpot Tommy to Instant Pot Tommy.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. I don't know if that has the same ring to it, but we'll certainly give it a shot. And maybe then you become Air Fryer Tommy after that. Who knows?
I could just be the appliance guy. Like it's like hey, you needed a panini maker? Here's your panini maker. You need
Panini Tommy has a good ring to it. Or Tommy does. Panini if it goes as like a last name. Tommy Panini here to crack open the case.
That sounds like I'm like some like sketchy salesman where I'm like, hey, come get your paninis from me. I got every kind. I got PB&J
Tommy Panini here.
Tommy like you're like a beeper salesman. Like that's Tommy Panini selling you the hottest paninis on the press.
Okay, so I think with ribs, Tommy, I think just because of the wow factor, I think they belong in the conversation for higher up just because of that. The fact that they surprised me, the fact that this is something that I would consider to be like, it has to be done right, and with the Crockpot having done it, it doesn't take all that much to get done properly. I would want to put this in at the very least bottom of I've got food at home, because if I've got good ribs sitting at home, I'm not going to need to eat anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's, and especially for you, it's proven itself to you, right?
Right.
And I think it goes bottom. I'm debating between stuffed pepper.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it beats chocolate cake.
No, I don't think it beats chocolate cake. I do think because ultimately we both know that there are better formats for having the ribs. This isn't the best one. This is just the best in a bad situation one. So, yeah, I think it stays in the bottom. Let's keep it in the bottom of the I got food at home. Okay. All right, your turn.
All right, let's go. Let's keep some of our more traditional ones in here for a little bit because we just went with ribs. Let's go with the chicken tiki.
Okay, the chicken tikka masala is up here. Have you made this in a crock pot?
I've not made it in a crock pot. I've made it before. I've eaten it before. I am not surprised it's good in it. I would not be surprised to hear it is good in a crock pot. I actually think it would be better in crock pot form because I think that chicken tiki, it's flavor. Like when you hear that, it's a flavorful food. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about crock pots, we talk about it bringing out the flavor and products. And I think to me, it's a no-brainer that this works well.
I think, and I think that it's the perfect food to show that a crock pot can take a food and kind of guarantee that it's going to give you that food in a well-balanced format. It's good all around. The taste is great. The texture is great. It's exactly the same as it would have been if you cooked it otherwise. So, and it doesn't, to me, it doesn't like, this is like closer to kind of a stew conversation where I think that the same qualities translate over. So for me, this is a slam dunk choice if you were to make it in a crock pot. I might even make it in a crock pot just to make sure I don't fuck it up, right? Like, I think that's the big deal for me with a chicken tikka masala, especially given that I'm not too familiar with the cuisine. I want to make sure that I get it right. If it's just do all these, measure these things out and the crock pot will take it over, I'm like, okay, let's do that. That'll be better for me. So I think for me, this ends up kind of in the same conversation as the ribs potentially, but beneath the ribs for me.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that statement. I think it's like something that like, I'd be like, again, because it's like kind of unique, I'd be like, I'm going to eat this, but I'm not like, I want to like call it Crockpot of Gold. And it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I definitely think I think that's a good spot to put in next to ribs.
So then we're left with 3 items. 3 items here. And we say we want to keep the more traditional ones for later. I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. Let's go with mac and cheese. Okay. So have you made mac and cheese in a crock pot before?
Yes. The thing with mac and cheese, right? Mm-hmm. In general, we could spend the whole time talking about mac and cheese. Mac and cheese is so versatile. You can do, like, I think oven. You can obviously put it in a pot. You can do it. I think my thing with crock pot is it's the same as other in the sense that both I feel like achieve the best cheesy factor of mac and cheese. It doesn't burn it. You know, if you do it correctly, it does not burn it, and it creates that kind of like gooey mac and cheese that you want. If you like cheesy mac and cheese, there's some people that don't. Some people want the cheese to like get into the pasta and not be as cheesy.
Right, like more of a you don't notice it there kind of thing. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I'm more of a give me the cheese. I'm down with the cheese. So if I see the cheese, I'm happy about it. Prefer it. I think ultimately for me, because I've never personally made it in a crock pot myself. I could definitely see the merits of it. I think ultimately to get that, I need that like crispiness.
That's what I was gonna. Yeah.
The crisp factor is not there with the crock pot. It will be there if it's oven baked. So I think that for that reason, I would prefer it oven baked. But I swear if I made this, I would be like, I don't need to eat outside. Like I'm good. So I don't know. It's either on top of its food, because again, it's a hearty meal that's ready to go, but it's also just mac and cheese. But also I could see myself like maybe jonesing for it and just skipping food outside and eating it at home.
To me, it's above stovetop. Like if you're talking about like it's above stovetop doing it in a crock pot. But I agree with you. As much as I love the crock pot, I do mac and cheese is one of those things. I do want those crispy bits at the top.
Yes.
And so for the reason of it's still probably it's the same kind of talk of lasagna, right? Where it's like it's probably good. We love lasagna. We love mac and cheese.
Yes.
But because we prefer it in a different form, I would put it in its food. I'm leaning towards above queso though. I think it's a little bit better than like lasagna and stuff. So I would put it above queso.
If there was a tier in between Ed's food and I got food at home, that's where it would be for me. It's like on the edge of both pretty much. Okay. So which one do you want to go with? And then that determines what's the last item too.
I want to take out Sloppy Joe's.
Okay. So we'll go with Sloppy Joe's, ending it on chili.
Yeah, I think that's they're both like iconic foods, right? But I think chili should be last. For me with Sloppy Joe's. So I enjoy Sloppy Joe's. I say I've had a lot of Sloppy Joe's because it is so easy to make, and my mom definitely like. My mom should be paying the Sloppy Joe guy because it's like she just threw that sauce on everything. But then she experimented at a time. And she started doing more of a mustardy Sloppy Joe sauce. I do not like it. I do not like the mustardy Sloppy Joe sauce. I'm more of the Italian kind of like the more of the manwich kind of sauce. Or if you're like that kind of style.
Like a more of a closer to the meat sauce kind of vibe. Yes. Gotcha. Yeah, I love Sloppy Joe's. And again, meal that Liana doesn't really care for, but it's fine. To me, it's like all the things I love in a sandwich. Like I can't be mad at that at all. And the fact that it's so easy to make, I'm all in on it. I think that the difference for me is I don't think it's for everybody. So that automatically I might not be able to give it the crock pot of gold. But I feel personally for me, it's crock pot of gold because I fucking love it. And again, it's very easy to make. It's very easy to eat. You can eat it in many different forms. So I don't see the problem here. And it's very easy to, again, like this is quintessential set it and forget it. And when you forget it and you remember that you're making this, ooh, so good.
And it's another one. It reminds me of the pulled pork where you don't need a ton of stuff on it. You can maybe put cheese on it if you want, but it doesn't need it. It doesn't even need bread. Like I would almost sometimes even just eat a spoonful because it's just meat and sauce. What's to complain about meat?
Exactly.
And sauce?
You just have it in a bowl, have it with side of bread, or have it in bread similar to the one we have in the picture here on a bun. Works all of those ways. And if you want cheese, put you some cheese on. If you want a little bit of hot sauce, throw some hot sauce on there. Like it's pretty much a burger, just without the form of a patty and with more of the tomatoiness to it.
Yep.
So, yeah. So where does this go for you? I feel like for me, this is like in the top 3 of I got food at home with the meatballs and the beef stew.
Yes, agreed. For a while now, I've been contemplating that I think meatballs may need to go up into Crockpot of Gold. So for now, I think that I would put Sloppy Joe's below meatballs.
Okay. I was going to put right there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's like, to me, I can't do that to meatballs yet. Like I don't know if Meatballs goes up yet, but it's like Meatballs does not go below Sloppy Joe's.
Right. So then, last one on the list, we got the chili. Now you have been saving this for last by the sounds. I've been avoiding it because I think this is what you wanted last. So why is this last?
Out of everything on this list, we've talked about like our Mount Rushmore. To me, when you, as much as we talk about, and like I think Stu is also, because Stu is like the Richard Hatch of Crockpot recipes. Like, Stu did it so that Stu took steps so that chili could run. And for me, chili is on that Mount Rushmore, maybe the number one. In my opinion, chili is so versatile. I'm assuming we're just talking about traditional beef bean chili.
Yeah.
But it could be I've had amazing vegetable chilies. I've had amazing turkey chili. I've had amazing, any form of chili. I have enjoyed my experience with it. You can put it on other foods and it just elevates those. You can put it on a hot dog, it elevates the hot dog. You put it on fries, it elevates. Any form of chili just makes things better.
It honestly is the one meal that can be everything, if you think about it. It can be, sorry, my headphones jumped out. It can be soup adjacent. It can be condiment adjacent. It can be hearty meal adjacent. And like it's got everything. It's got you got the beans there, you got the beef there, you can have some veggies in there. Like it's literally everything. Everything. So, and I think this is quintessential crockpot dining right here. Because I think I think when I started getting into the crockpot, I mentioned I wasn't following a recipe. I was pretty much, after looking at the stuff later, I was like, oh, I was making chili this whole time. Like, because I'm like throwing stuff in here and it's giving me, I'm getting that return is that chili. So I'm not mad at this at all. I think if anything, it came first with Stu, and then Stu graduated and then got a job and then became Chili. And then Chili became the CEO, and then everyone else is hired through Chili. Chili's kind of like the Bill Gates or the Steve Jobs of the company, where they came through, they came and they pioneered a new era of crockpot dining, and then all these other people came through later.
And I think the thing with chili, like everything we've talked about, the other ones, chili does. You do bring chili to events. You also can eat chili every week if you want to.
Yeah.
You can, like, it can be put on other things. It's like, I feel like chili to me is the green eggs and ham of our universe. So you can eat it in a box. You can eat it with a fox. I will eat chili in most situations. Now to as much as I've been promoting it, it is heavier. But recently I did try the vegetable chili, and that was such a lighter, and again, it's like, if we're talking about chili in general, there are lighter forms of chili.
Yeah. No, there definitely is. And that's the thing, is that you can have it where it's like closer to a solid state because of all the additions into it with the meat and the beans. But then you could have it where it's more of a lighter situation, depending on what veggies you're using, what meats you're using, how much, like what you're adding, how much you're adding. Like you can fuck around with the chili and you can make it a different state. But I think at the end of the day, you're not going to be mad at it because you've decided what journey you're taking with it. Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah,
that's Mount Rushmore. I think this goes to the top.
Yeah. I think so too. I think it's hard. I like pulled pork too, but I think pulled pork, as much as we were complimenting it for its one dimensionality, I think chili beats it out because of that.
Okay, I'm okay with this. I'm here with the crockpot connoisseur himself, and we're putting chili there. So this is the list we have right now, okay? Let's quickly examine this. I'll read them out so that the audience knows, because I've had to zoom the picture out so we capture all of it in one. So let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit. No, that's different. Okay, never mind. So in the binum, we have scallop potatoes and we have salmon. Are you comfortable leaving those two there?
Yeah, I think so. I think the way we talked about it, I don't see how we do put those higher.
I agree. I don't think they move anywhere. Has your opinion changed on Stroganoff, which is the only thing in shame meal at the moment?
No, it hasn't changed. I think Stroganoff, again, it's not that I'm like hiding under my bed shame, but it's definitely when I'm not what's it called? I'm not boasting about the fact that I made beef stroganoff tonight.
Yeah. And then in as just food, we have 5 items. We have chicken noodle soup, lasagna, corned beef and cabbage, the white queso dip, or sorry, it's just queso dip. I pulled a picture of those white queso, just queso. And then we have mac and cheese. So the only thing I want to move here potentially is I would not mind moving the soup down to shame meal.
That's what I was going to bring up. It's hard because I do like chicken noodle soup, but I think if we're talking about crock pot chicken noodle soup, I think that becomes a shame meal.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with you. And then in the Now I Got Food at Home, this is the thickest of the tiers. We have 10 items on here. So we got the chicken tikka masala. We've got the ribs, stuffed pepper, chocolate cake, the bolognese sauce, breakfast casserole, spinach dip, beef stew, sloppy joe, and meatballs. So
there's 2 thoughts. So I wonder if we move meatballs up. That's something that I would consider, but I still don't know. I'm not sold on that.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking about the bolognese, and I'm like, are we too high on bolognese?
I've kind of been thinking that for a little bit here.
We're on the same.
Yeah, we're on the same track. I've been like, why is it higher than like the rest of these items? What's making it go up there? I think we talked about the sending it to friends in the mason jars, and I think that made us feel higher on it.
Yeah. I think to me, bolognese is down, maybe even into Aunt's food.
Oh, snap. Top of Aunt's food, I think.
Yes.
Okay, I'm down with that.
It's still really good.
Yeah. But it is just quintessential, it's there. Like, I do think. Okay. And then I think we move Crockpot meatballs up to the top.
Yeah.
Bottom of the top, but let's just move it to the top.
Yes. Definitely bottom of the top, but I think it deserves to be up there with.
Yeah. No, and I think this makes the list perfect because that's the final tally for Crockpot of Gold top tier. We have the cocktail meatballs, chicken fajitas, buffalo chicken dip, pulled pork, and slow cooker chili.
I think if you told people that top 5, I don't like. Maybe people question you about fajita because it is it's not one of the staple ones you think about. Mm-hmm. But I think we talked like I think because it's not a staple, that's why it's up there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that most people will be like, oh yeah, that list makes sense. I think maybe some people, like anyone that's not into chili, would be like, isn't chili just kind of it's there? Well, it's like it depends. If you're looking at the chili as like what's one of the more common options, maybe. But if you look at it for what it's brought to the table and what it's opened the world to, then it's a different story for sure. So
there's so many chili festivals. I think that speaks for the chili itself.
Yeah, there's festivals dedicated to this meal. Festivals. It's not bad. It's not bad for chili. Tommy, I can't believe this only took 2 hours. Like time flies, man. Time fucking flies.
And we probably could have went more in depth on some of these too.
We could have, and we removed some off the list. Or I did, without announcing some of them to you.
I did add a secret chicken dumplings, so if you got this far, hashtag chicken and dumplings.
Yeah, shoot at Tommy. You can see his Twitter up there. Tell him what you liked, what you didn't like. But I'm holding you to it. At some point in October, we're going to pick a Thursday out, and you're going to come through, and we're going to, I don't know, we'll have to figure out the tech side of can you put a camera in your kitchen, where you want to prep these, but we're going to do a meatballs with Tommy.
Bedroom meatballs? I don't know if that's sanitary. I don't know.
I feel like it's not sanitary. It might get censored. It might come off as something else. It might come off as X-rated. But yeah.
Definitely. No, I would love to. I had so much fun today talking to you. And my love for crockpots, I would love to come back any time and definitely to teach you about the merits of homemade meatballs.
Of course.
Throw out those frozen meatballs for good.
Yeah, and of course, when that happens, when he's saying, give us the recipe ahead of time so we can cook and follow along. I think we can make that happen. We can arrange for that. Yeah. So if you want to follow Tommy, again, his Twitter handle is above his head on the screen. Mine is down here. I will be back with you on Friday for the Pad late night stream, of course. So be sure to check that out. Doing all these other podcasts, you can find those plugged on my Twitter as well. But yeah, until then, take care. Get you a crock pot or cook you a crock pot meal because it goes a long way and it's hearty and it's delicious. And if you are making scallop potatoes, I have one thing to say to you. Do better, think better, care better for yourself, and don't eat queso cold unless you're Marcus.